Holy cannoli, I asked this over 4 months ago. Anyways, I'm finally doing this one. It's the Fimfiction hot takes video. I did a lot of hot takes videos in a row, or like around in a time. And they were all YouTube ones, and I had asked this one around that same time. And I've been getting asked over and over again when I'm going to make this one, so I'm finally going to just make it. Fimfiction is a place where there are a lot of people that I do like, and there are a lot of people that I don't really like. It's got way too many questionable stories for me to be okay with. I don't really like the tasteless, mature stuff that doesn't have a point. I'm not even going to mention what it is. You all know what I'm talking about. I really, really, really don't like stuff that centers around OCs or self-inserts or stuff like that. Wish fulfillment stuff doesn't interest me at all. I think it takes away from the lore of the story and the characters itself. If you're trying to build up an OC character or trying to build up self-fulfillment or human in Equestria or any of that stuff, you're not really reinforcing the characters or drawing people towards the characters. You're pretty much just trying to draw people towards that OC or that human in Equestria or Anon. I hate Anon. I think it's trash. A lot of that stuff I hate, but there are some really, really good writers there. Some people that do respect the series itself, and so I'll be doing this from this hot takes video in a different format than the others. I'm not going to take too long on this one. There's a lot to get through here, and I don't want to make multiple videos or have this video be extremely long. So I'm going to just talk about the takes as they're on the screen, and I'll give whether they're hot or not any of this fancy editing or stuff like that. I kind of just want to get through this one so that I'm not a liar when I said I would make this one. So let's get on to the takes. So starting off, we have Shrewpone, who said, outside of perhaps the pilot, Rarity is constantly selfish and greedy apart from when it's convenient for the plot. That's just fundamentally not true. There are so many episodes where Rarity is generous. That's like not even a take. It's just an incorrect observation. Then they say, and Pinky isn't a very good person to have around. Again, that would be dependent on whether or not you like Pinky to be around, so that's just not true. If she's bugging you and you told her to stop, she would likely cry or throw a fit. Not because she didn't realize she was upsetting you and feels bad for doing so, but because she didn't get her way. This is just, I guess this person just doesn't like Pinky or Rarity. I've said before, I wonder if Pinky being around would be too much for some people, and I'm sure she would, but I'm sure a lot of people would love to have Pinky around, and she would brighten their day. So I think this Shrewpone person just doesn't like Rarity or Pinkie Pie. Next up, we have the GJ90, who said, people need to stop putting Friendship is Magic on a pedestal. It's awesome, but there are cartoons out there with more consistent writing. I really hate blanket statements. People need to stop putting... I mean, this is a true statement. If you say some people need to stop putting Friendship is Magic on a pedestal, I agree with that sentiment. This show is... it's my favorite show. Is it the best cartoon ever? No. There are way better cartoons than Friendship is Magic. One of them off the top of my head is Avatar: The Last Airbender. And that's coming from someone who hasn't even watched all of Avatar: Last Airbender. I've watched most of it, and I know that that show is crazy, crazy solid good. But I prefer Friendship is Magic over Avatar: The Last Airbender. I prefer Friendship is Magic over every other cartoon. And the thing is yeah, this show does not have the most consistent of writing. That's true. Next they said, Starlight Glimmer was shown more mercy by her new friends than they had any right to show. True enough. But do you honestly think she'll just turn evil again at the first sight of temptation? I say no, but that's just me. I don't think that Starlight really did anything other than trick some ponies into believing her and then ran away. So to say that she was shown mercy, not really. She didn't really end up doing anything, and like I've said in my Starlight videos, had she wanted to destroy Equestria, she could have. Twilight herself says she couldn't have stopped Starlight. So Starlight stopping herself and saying, I am backing off, is her giving up. And No, I don't think she'd be evil because she's the one who decided to stop. She could have kept on going and she would have destroyed Equestria or diverted the timeline horribly, but she didn't. Next, they said G5, for all its faults, was not as bad as haters made it out to be, and frankly deserves better than what Hasbro has given it. I wish that wasn't a hot take, but oh my goodness, some folks really got it out for a cartoon. So G5 was not as bad as haters made it out to be, but it is a very bad show. G5, especially in comparison to G4, is just worlds below it. The writing in G5 is really, really, really bad. Its reliance on G4 is really, really bad. It's just childish fart jokes, and the baby dragon running around farting and stuff is just bad. It is bad. Haters may be wrong just hating it and frothing at the mouth and saying the characters are crap and all of that. Yeah, they're wrong, but it's still a very bad show. Deserves better than what Hasbro has given it. Yeah, it does. It should have gotten an ending. That's just true. Why would it not get an ending? That's wild. And that's not really a hot take. Any reasonable MLP fan will agree with you, but any reasonable MLP fan will also say G5 was not good at all. Like, not at all, because that's a blanket statement. I really like some of the characters, and some of the characters were written good, and there are some good episodes, but it is majority bad. The verbal civil war in the fandom over G5 versus G4 is a waste of time and energy, since both generations have brought joy to people in their own ways, and there's bigger fish to fry than different opinions clashing. No, that is not true, simply because objectively, G4 is better than G5. It shouldn't be a debate, because G4 is better. Period. The writing is better. Again, not the best writing ever in a cartoon, but it has better writing than G5, and it has arguably better characters. I could understand liking G5's characters more than G4, but Twilight is written way better than Sunny and such, so it's not opinions there. There's no point in bashing G5 because it was not as good. Just don't have anything to do with it, but objectively G4 is better than G5. I know this last part isn't so much of a hot take, but Hasbro, in its current form, won't allow a good MLP show to be produced for a long time. That's yet to be seen. We'll have to see if that's true or not. Next up, we have a really long one from Leviathan Eclipse. They said, Shining Armor is worst pony. Maybe. We'll see. He made Twilight care about him, trust him, love him, and then he abandons her, and every time they meet up, it either has something to do with government or his wife and child. So, Shining Armor didn't abandon Twilight. That's called growing up, and usually people leave home and get a career in their own home and stuff. And it's especially bad because Shining Armor didn't exist in season 1. Like, obviously the writing was that they didn't have a Shining Armor, so that's just silly to say. Cadence acts as a better sibling to Twilight than Shining because she actually goes out of her way to hang out with Twilight. That's up to the writers. But if you're going to go into canon, I'm sure that Shining Armor has a lot of responsibilities. You're arguing writing of the canon. Zephyr might be a worse brother, but he's always been the worst. Yeah, Zephyr is way worse than Shining Armor. Twilight sang a whole song about him and how much she misses him. He then proceeds to abandon Twilight, move to the far north. Well, no, the song happened when he was already in the far north. Yes, he's just going along with Cadence, but he didn't have to get married in the first place. Sorry, if you have the opportunity to marry Cadence, who is not taking that opportunity, that's silly. And then the next 2 times he comes to visit, it's with Cadence and has to do with his kid. Yes, because they're a family. And I love Flurry Heart, unironically, because she brings out the adorable anti-energy in Twilight. But, like, hey, if you actually care about Twilight and Spike doesn't matter. That's silly and stupid season 9 writing where they're supposed to be siblings. That was just stupid freaking what's-her-name, Kathy, just trying to make him a sibling, and he was never that. That was just stupid. Drill Twilight on her wards and shields or just hang out doing nothing in particular. But no, his priority is being a trophy husband and leaving Twilight. That's so stupid. That's really stupid. This is a really stupid take. Sorry, no offense, Leviathan, but this is really just Shining Armor hate for the sake of hating Shining Armor. Don't get me wrong, I don't like Shining Armor that much, but this is just weird. And before you mentioned Sparkle 7, he only did that because Sparkle 7 was crap. Kathy ruined that episode, and the voice actors ruined a lot of canon because they just wanted to put stupid crap into episodes. Now, before you go and say Twilight didn't go out of her way to hang out with Shining, she has responsibilities too. People grow up. Adults have to do things. Yes, she does. When the pony they make mistake for the gaming inspector is running around, she goes to talk with her brother, who then proceeds to interrupt her. Retarded. Sorry. That's all I can say. Twilight is antisocial, and Shining knows this. It's his responsibility to make sure she knows he's still there for her. Twilight is antisocial? Not anymore. That was before, when she was literally young, like season 1. And when I say retarded, I'm referring to the idea, not this person. This person just has some bad takes. So that is why Shining Armor is worse pony. No, Zephyr is way worse. Sven Gallop is way worse. There are a lot of way worse. Snips and Snails are way worse. This could have just summed up in one paragraph, like in one sentence. It didn't need to be this entire paragraph. I don't like Shining Armor, and that's fine. You could hate Shining Armor as much as you want. Next up, they say Spike is Twilight's only brother. No, that's stupid. Twilight is a mother to Spike. That's just dumb. I unironically think he should have been able to wield the element of loyalty. That's stupid too. Just horrible take, because he is arguably the most loyal character in the show. Doesn't matter. Obviously, the elements of harmonies can only be wielded by ponies. He is the best little brother, period. He's not a brother. He is not Twilight's son. Yes, he is. He is her brother. No, he's not. That was only Kathy in literally season 9 at the end of the canon, and she's not a writer. Their dynamics have been clear since wrap-up at the latest, but they still displayed sibling vibes. Sibling vibes is your assumptions or your perceptions, and your perceptions are wrong. That is the entire point of the episode in season 8 when Twilight gets her heart broken. And you could say that's really late too, but Twilight hatched Spike, and when things hatch, they usually imprint on a thing that hatched them as a mother or father or whatever you want to say hatched them. Spike was always a son to Twilight, and this whole they were siblings is just stupid Kathy and stupid Sparkle 7. As awesome as I want to be legitimately slaps hard. Yeah, see, just awful opinions. It is not a certified bop. Freaking Rainbow Dash, her music sucks. The best song from Rainbow Rocks? Just horrendously incorrect. Just awful opinions. Rainbow Dash is legitimately see, this is silly. I'll go to the next. The dazzling music is mediocre at best. This person's just stupid. It's just dumb. Apple Dash is way overrated, if not one of the worst ships. Sure, if you think so. People either love Apple Dash or hate Apple Dash. Couldn't care less. Sugar Bell and Big Mac makes no sense, and the way they got together throws up all kinds of red flags out the wazoo. What? Red flags? You don't need to ship Big Mac. Him, AJ, and Bloom are just fine tending to the orchard and helping Well, you kind of said sent all kinds of red flags. What red flags? Okay. The pies and apples are cousins. No, they're not. Big Mac, no, it's not. Just wrong again. Rarity has the most character growth of any character in the show. That's just objectively not true. Twilight is the main character and literally has the most growth. Even though they tried to stunt that growth in season 9 when they made Twilight revert to her old actions and she kind of got stupid again where she was worrying about stuff. No, it's objectively Twilight. She starts out as one of the worst ponies. Again, objectively wrong. Rarity is likable from episode 1. This is just a big Spike fan too. This person likes Spike a lot and hates Shining Armor. I don't know why. This all could have been summed up with I really like Spike. I really don't like Shining Armor. Pinkie Pie is one of the most responsible members of the main 6. When the chips are down, Pinkie has your back. She has files on every pony in Ponyville. She has every pony's birthday memorized. She learns from her mistakes in sitting for the Cake Twins. I could go on and on. She's not the best pony, but she is up there in ranking. Pinkie's fine. I don't care. And then finally, my main 6 rankings. This person literally says Saint Dashy. Yeah, your takes are really bad. That's pretty much all I have to say. Next up, we have Ether Rails. Hopefully, this is a lot less dumb than the last one. They said Sunset Shimmer was wasted on Equestria Girls. Now, by that, I don't necessarily mean Sunset, the character, but rather Sunset, the former student of Celestia. Equestria Girls, to my knowledge, never really did anything with the idea that Sunset was the former student of the immortal demigod ruler of Equestria, but by having Sunset be in the human world, it prevented that idea from being used in Friendship is Magic. Yeah, because it doesn't really make sense in canon. They didn't want to make that canon, like, lore-wise, because Celestia having a former student and failing with that former student kills the mystique behind Celestia and how she's wise. And I'm almost certain, well, I'm not going to say I'm almost certain because that's just presumptuous of me, but I would assume, and you shouldn't assume, that's always dumb, but I would assume that Lauren Faust wanted Celestia to be a wise leader who was smart and not the type who would just raise up a student like Sunset who just does whatever she wants and is... It takes away from Celestia's character to do that. I don't think that she was wasted on Equestria Girls, considering she's the only reason that Equestria Girls is really that good. But I understand where you're coming from, and I don't think it was Faust's intention to have Celestia be so bad of a leader or a teacher. Then they said, Sunset Shimmer, the Equestria Girls character, could have been any random pony. She could have been a Pegasus or an Earth pony for that matter, given we never really see her do magic in Equestria, despite her being supposedly one of the most magically gifted unicorns of her time. She didn't have to have any relation to Celestia, in fact. I think the only point where it's significant to the story is her saying the element of magic crown belongs to her. Yeah, but they needed a hook in the first Equestria Girls movie, and that hook was former student versus current student. And yeah, the first Equestria Girls movie was bad. Like, I don't think anybody would debate with you that the writing for that one was not the greatest. It definitely was pretty mid. Next, they said, I love Starlight Glimmer. She's my favorite character in the show, but it could have been very interesting to see her character merge with Sunset's. So, there's a running theme with this take, and I'll say it in a second. It says, imagine if the Season 5 villain had a personal vendetta against Twilight for succeeding in being Celestia's pupil where she failed. Again, all this does when you say Celestia... Sunset failed as Celestia's student, also makes Celestia look bad. It is the saying from Remember the Titans when Julius says, attitude reflects leadership, Captain. Yes, your attitude is affected by your leadership. Sunset being a bad student would be because, in most senses, Celestia is a bad teacher. Now, that's not always true. Obviously, some students could be just awful human beings, but then why did you take them on as a student? So it becomes this cyclical thing of where it's like, whose fault was it? And I don't think Lauren Faust wanted to bring Celestia down to the level that the newer writers brought Celestia to, where she's this goofy idiot who's like, I enjoy, and she's cheering and she's screaming. I think that Celestia, at least from the first season and the second season, that Celestia was supposed to have a mystique to her and to be very, very revered, not to be like, oh man, she's kind of just a doofy idiot. And that's what this does again to her too. It says, against Twilight for succeeding in being Celestia's pupil where she failed. Her redemption arc could have been much more interesting, with her slowly working up to being forgiven by Celestia. There's so much potential with the idea of Celestia's former student being a villain and remaining in Equestria. Again, that takes away from Celestia. But because the character of Celestia's former student was already used in Equestria Girls, she couldn't be used in the main storyline. Again, this is because they probably didn't want it to be canon, because that makes Celestia look worse. And, like, if you're maybe that's not why they did it. Maybe they are just really bad writers and they were like, oops, we used this already. That's entirely possible. I'm just saying that makes Celestia look worse. If you introduce it into canon that Celestia can't even take on a student without, it's what they did to Luke, right? What they did to Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker was originally the one who saved everything and was really there to be the good guy that was, and then what did the new Disney writers do to him? They were like, oh no, he was dumb. He put fear into his own student by trying to kill him, and it was completely his fault that all of this nonsense happened again. And that's what you're trying to do with Celestia, to make Starlight a stronger character. But Starlight could have just been a stronger character to begin with. Her motivation was terrible. And again, this is coming from me, whose favorite character is Starlight Glimmer. I love Starlight Glimmer more than every other character in MLP. they could have just wrote her better. They didn't have to make her, oh man, my friend left and I want to just like have my own town where everybody stays. It's just silly, really bad, like childish writing. Probably because like it's not right. It's not bad writing in a bubble. Starlight having that fear probably had that fear because young kids have that fear. Oh man, if my friend left that I loved and I played with and we had fun times all together, I'd be really, really, really sad. And that's probably why they did it. But as older people, we're going to be like, oh, that's kind of weak writing because friends have to leave, family has to leave. Eventually, people do leave. They go on to say, in fact, I personally think Sunset being Celestia's former student and living in the human world is extremely strange. It is extremely strange. The only reason that Equestria Girls was written was to copy Monster High, and they just wanted the same setting, and they didn't want to make it too far. Again, it's the same thing they did with G5. We have to connect it to this series because this series is so popular. That's the only reason it's there. Sunset is supposedly one of the most powerful unicorns of her time. Why would she permanently live in a place with no magic? Because they need the setting to sell toys. Like, somebody mentions this later in hot takes, and it's completely true. We've got to have some sense of being adults and understanding. Hey, yeah, they're doing it just because it's a cartoon where they're trying to sell toys. Sunset is a character I enjoy primarily in fanfics. Wavelengths by I don't care to advertise people. I personally just don't enjoy Equestria Girls, so I'm admittedly biased, but I just wish the Equestria Girls protagonist wasn't the former student of Celestia. Yeah, this could have all been summed up with, I don't really like Equestria Girls. And that's fine. That's not a hot take. There's a lot of people that don't like Equestria Girls. You do you. Don't like what you don't like what you like. Also, I think Sunset's pony design is one of the best in the show, so that's part of it for sure. Yeah, Sunset looks great. I don't know many people that would debate that. Next up we have Jade Hayes, who said, diarchies are impractical. Well, a quick Google search says, historical examples of diarchies. Ancient Sparta had 2 kings, one from each of the 2 royal houses, the Agadi and... I don't know how to say that. Roman Republic had 2 consuls who ruled together. Carthage had 2 judges who held joint power. Other ancient examples, some ancient Polynesian societies and Germanic and Dacian tribes also exhibited diarchic structures. Inca Empire, Madras Presidency. There are also modern examples, such as Andorra. The heads of state are 2 co-princes, the president of France and the bishop of Urgel in Spain. San Marino, the government is led by 2 co-equal captains, regent, who serve as joint heads of state. Eswatini, formerly Swaziland, the king and his mother share joint sovereignty as joint heads of state. So, no, not as impractical as you might think. Radar Area said, my hot take of Celestia holding Equestria and all the nations around her back, technologically, developmentally, feels lukewarm right now. I'm assuming this means like Celestia is the thing on which technology and development of the nations or the cities or the places in Equestria are hinged on Celestia. That's an interesting take. I don't think anybody... I mean, I'm sure there are people, but it's not exactly widely understood as to why everything functions in Equestria the way it does. Again, probably just a kid's cartoon, and if you want to look into it, you can. But then the main issue with that is that people tend to impose human and real world conventions to a magical land full of horses, and that doesn't necessarily apply, so it's kind of pointless too. Next up we have Silk Rose, who's a friend, and I'm still going to be brutally honest with my friends as well. Twilight Pinky is the best ship. Disagree. Hard disagree. Ships are up to people themselves though, but I would never put Twilight and Pinky together. Pinky is with Cheese Sandwich. That's not even a point. The writers leaving the relationship status open for interpretation for Fluttercord and Appledash at the end of the show is a cop-out. I was going to say I don't think Fluttercord is very open. It seems very much that when Angel said, I want to marry Discord, he would know Fluttershy's more inner thoughts and things that she says. It doesn't make sense for him to say that if that wasn't the entire intention. Appledash definitely was. They should have kissed. I said it a million times. If you wanted to provide evidence that they were an actual ship, they should have kissed. Since they didn't, you can't consider it canon. A lot of people do. They'll say, well, Ashley Ball said Ashley Ball's not a writer. All they did was ruin what could have been a good episode in season 9, but they're not writers, so. If it's up to interpretation, then why is Pinky confirmed in a ship? No, I'll never get over it, lol. It's not open for interpretation. She literally has a child. She literally has a child with cheese. Like, that's not interpretation, that's canon. I think any member of the main six could realistically be in a ship with any other member. It all depends on the writer's ability to write. That's like saying, I honestly believe that anything could be good if a writer is good enough. Yeah, I mean, if you think that, then that's what you think. The thing is with Pinky, she is legitimately in a relationship in canon. So if you're saying with being in a ship with any other member in a fan fiction, yeah, of course, it's fiction. Anybody could write. If somebody is a good enough writer, they could write some jamming stuff. But if we're talking about canon, Pinky's with cheese. Pinky deserves more stories on this site. In reference to Fimfiction, Pinky has a lot of stories. That's a little wild, but hey, if you like Pinky that much, then yeah, they should write more about her. We have another extremely long one from Coolbach, and they're gonna start with the stuff that isn't even takes. HIE stories, human and Equestria stories, especially the ones where the human becomes an alicorn and effectively wipes out any possible existence of the G5 timeline. Okay. I don't... The older stories written before the G5 announcement may have been unintentional, but the ones after definitely were. Okay. The School of Friendship makes little sense. I'd agree. And the main six as professors makes zero sense considering all but Pinkie Pie have full-time jobs already. Yeah, that's fair. Pinkie kind of works Sugar Cube too, so saying that she doesn't have a full-time job, maybe part-time, but she works there a lot. They hint that eventually the CMC and some of the students will take over as professors, but as of the end of Season 8, the job should go to Celestia, Luna, and Discord, 3 characters with detailed knowledge of the elements and way too much time. They're not good friends, though. It's the School of Friendship. Why would they have 3 characters who can't? That's an awful take. I don't... Also... with way too much time on their hands, they're co-rulers of a quest. That's just really dumb. Tell Your Tale is the canon G5 story. Make Your Mark may or may not be. That they contradict each other, so one has to be canon. Tell Your Tale probably should be the canon one. Make Your Mark was. Am I thinking this right? Let me look up real quick because like Make Your Mark. Let's see. So Make Your Mark is the good one. That's wild to say Tell Your Tale is the canon G5 story. I think the only reason this person is saying Tell Your Tale is the canon G5 story is because it got further. And it's because they were running out of, like, they couldn't make stuff anymore and they were just making what, I mean, who really cares about G5's canon story? It didn't even have an ending. It never will have an ending. Maybe if they rewrite it or something, we could talk about this again and revisit it. But as of now, who cares? Upon hearing more of equestrian history pre-Twilight, Zip will decide that she and Pip will follow tradition and rule Zephyr Heights as a diarchy. That's not a take, you're just saying things. The Power Ponies episode in comic is Hasbro's take that to Warner Brothers' treatment of Young Justice and the marketing of other female DC superheroines. The episode was to show that the superpowered Power Ponies were worse heroes and less powerful than the more mundane six. Okay, maybe? Who cares? The main 7 of EQG will eventually figure out that not only their world is the mirror dimension of the Equestria Prime G4 world, but they are also in a true... The Spring Break Storm King situation was to prevent them from reaching the edge of their world. There is no EQG version. That's just, I don't know. I don't care. These aren't takes. Takes are popular things in the canon of the show and your opinions on them, people. It's not like I think that Cranky Doodle Donkey in the Equestria Girls world probably drives a Mazda. It's like that. Okay, I don't care. Freaking A, bro. Next up we have Block, who said, my hot take is that MLP has never had consistently good story writing, not even once. So this would depend on what you mean by consistently good story writing. If you mean from like episode to episode, probably not. That is true. There's too many inconsistencies, too many, like, it's too much. It's like saying a sitcom, like say The Simpsons, would have consistent writing. No, it's too hard to have a show with this long, even like you said here, not even once, not even G4, despite having some good story writing, has had consistently good writing because MLP has always been held back by the fact that it's technically just a toy ad. That, I don't even think has to do with it. I just think it has to do with having so many writers and different writers writing different things. If it was a focused show where, like, say, 3 writers took on the entire first season or whatever. I mean, if you just look, let's take a look real quick. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but how many writers did season 1 of MLP Friendship is Magic have? Let's see. Season 1 of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic had a core team of 8 credited writers. 8 writers for one thing is a lot. That is an absurdly high. That's not even like we wrote one thing. That is like we collaborated on one thing. So yeah, to say that like it never had, I don't think that's like too big of a big deal. Who cares if it didn't have consistently good writing? We had some really well writing for particular episodes, and we had some really, really, really cool character and a really cool world to play around with. Second, they said a possibly much colder take related to this is that MLP has the potential for phenomenal storytelling with deep thematic exploration, but once again is held back by being technically just a toy ad and just a show. Well, yeah, just a show, a kid's show, sorry. Well, yeah, I mean, it depends. You will get out of anything what you put into it, and you continue here. Let me finish the point. This is the post that I was talking about, it being a toy ad and it being toys and that previous. Another take tangentially related to these two adults. Generally don't. These two. Adults generally don't respect kids shows, yet have the audacity to complain when kids turn out to be stupid, despite the adults themselves making children's entertainment dumb brain rot instead of educational and compelling. This is why shows like Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was so great, because they don't treat children like complete brain dead morons. Agree wholeheartedly. That is true. You get what you put in. If people would have put in more heart and more care into G4, you get out stuff in proportion to that. There's a saying, trash in, trash out. Yes, trash in, trash out. Good in, good out. So I agree wholeheartedly. And children's shows are generally treated like that. It is countless times that people come to my channel and they're like, it's a kid's show. Who cares? If you have that mentality, kids are the future. Kids will grow up and be the functioning members of society that carry society forward. And they will teach their kids. To discount children as if they're stupid and who cares what they watch, that is horrible and you shouldn't do it. It's really, really, really dumb. Fanstar1 said, not sure if it's a super hot take, but Sunset Shimmer absolutely should have become an alicorn at the end of Friendship Games. It's quite sad to see her not be one in Mirror Magic. I don't think that it matters at all. I don't think that it matters that Sunset or Starlight didn't become alicorns. It was already bad enough that Twilight turned into an alicorn so early, in my opinion. But they did it because of whateverization, I forget. That's fine, but Sunset doesn't need to be an alicorn. She is a unicorn and she's awesome, and who cares if she didn't get her wings or didn't get wings. And Starlight's best character in the show, never got wings, didn't need wings to be the best character in the show. She's still just the best. They go on to say, while Starlight may not have received much in the way of punishment, I don't see that as a problem at all. She didn't really need to be punished harshly because she gave herself up and she turned herself in and she tried to work towards remedying the things that she did wrong. And since we were never presented with really, really bad results of what she did, like none of the ponies that were in her town were traumatized or anything, then the punishment was proportional to the crime, in my opinion. Considering the reasons one might be punished, what reason is there to punish Starlight much beyond canon? It's quite evident from the show that neither the ponies from our town nor Twilight and Spike, though she wronged the most in her actions, desire her to face any real form of retribution. She didn't traumatize them either. She gave herself up because she was too strong, and she said, I will willingly stop myself. Neither is deterrence a reason either. Twilight judges correctly that Starlight is very much contrite for her prior actions and wants to change and be a better pony. Yes, she gave herself up. She could have destroyed the timelines, but she didn't. She chose to stop, and that's what makes Starlight different than villains. Chrysalis did not stop. Tirek did not stop. Cozy Glow did not stop. Not even Discord stopped willingly. They had to blast him with the elements. And then he stopped after when they were like, we're going to reform you. And if you don't reform, we're going to put you away in the thing. The only one that did is Starlight. They go on to say, while she does have a few moments where she relapses into bad behavior, if you will, it's generally of a lower severity than some of her conduct prior to beginning reformation. It is typically quickly rectified and dealt with. Her relapses, quote unquote, aren't really anything. She's just trying to do things like the correct way that she would think that she. In other words, it's just ignorance, and you can't really blame somebody for. Again, like the episode where she tries to help Thorax. Sorry, she was just trying to help, and she's not great at helping because her helping usually involves her doing things the way that she thinks that they'll work, and that's just her being her. One common trope I really don't like in pony fanfics is just how many human in Equestria are HIE fics, in which the protagonist is either turned into a pony at the beginning or sometime later on, involve the main character becoming the opposite sex of what they were previously, when they were perfectly comfortable with that identification. It's not like the vast majority of these even explore the concept beyond ringing it for some cheap drama or comedy either. I hate human in Equestria, period. Shouldn't be a thing, because when you write human in Equestria, you're only trying to glorify your human in Equestria or that OC, and what we should be writing about is Gen 4 characters and the characters that we were presented with. We shouldn't be trying to make our own characters popular. As supporting characters, sure, that's cool. Have them be supporting characters. But when your story revolves around your character, and it's either A, oh, this is basically just a story about this character that isn't in the show, or B, this character is a wish fulfillment for me, yeah, those suck. On a more mundane note, Starlight Glimmer's best pony, with only Sunset Shimmer giving much competition in that regard. And Sunset doesn't even really give competition. I think Celestia and Luna are higher than Sunset and Twilight too, but Starlight is pretty much untouchable. Of the main six, Twilight's my favorite, followed by Applejack, with perhaps Rainbow Dash as my least favorite. It's hard to rank the other four, to be honest. Twilight's the best out of the main six. She's just better than them. Christian, not the religion, said the movie was bad and the one special Rainbow Road Trip was a million times better. The movie was bad. A lot of people think that. I personally think it as well. Storm King sucked. I think Tempest Shadow sucked. I think what they did to the princesses sucked. I think how they wrote Twilight sucked. I think that it just sucked overall. Never watched Rainbow Road Trip. It looked better, I think. But I don't think the movie looked good either, so shrug. I don't know. Zoe Horse said, I like Cozy Glow. I think she's very funny. That's pretty standard. Not standard. A lot of people hate Cozy, but a lot of people like Cozy. Cozy's considered by some people to be the best villain in the show. So, not really. Yeah, you like Cozy as much as you want. Punk Rock Prom Queen said, Sunflower is an awful ship. Wallflower Blush is a terrible person who blames other people for her own personal failings and uses a magic rock to erase herself from people's memory every time she feels awkward. Yes, it is an awful ship, primarily because Wallflower Blush sucks, as you said. she's awful, awfully written, written by somebody who has their own shortcomings and failings and wants to be praised and recognized without having to work for it. They say, of course, none will know who you are if you keep erasing everyone's memories of you. Well, not only that, but people have to be loud. People have to be at the forefront. If you are a quiet person, you won't be noticed, and you should accept that. If you are fine with being a quiet person and not being noticed. If you want to be noticed, be noticed. It's just like a Goofy movie. Stand out above the crowd even if you have to shout out loud. Till mine is the only face you'll see. I'm gonna stand out until you notice me. This is what they used to teach children. If you want to be noticed, stand out. Now, with Equestria Girls' like fourth movie or whatever, they're like, it's okay to not stand out. Everyone else should be forced to be nice to you and notice you. That's stupid. She's the architect of her own problems, but blames Sunset because she's popular. Because she didn't go out of her way to be her friend. Also, the moral of Forgotten Friendship is stupid. Yes, it is atrociously bad. If you like Forgotten Friendship, there is something... Not if you like. If you think the moral of Forgotten Friendship is okay, there is something wrong with you. You are the issue. Not everyone else. Sometimes a person is the issue. And in that movie, Wallflower is the issue. She wants to stand out without having to stand out or do anything. And that's not how life works. It's also really stupid how they tried to make Sunset be nice to her. People don't have to be nice to you. The world isn't about other people being nice to you. You don't have to be nice to. Whether you have a mental illness, whether you are handicapped, whether you are the greatest person in the world. There are amazing people. People like, think of LeBron James. There are people that hate LeBron James. It doesn't matter that he's good at basketball. People do not have to be nice to you, and a lot of times people will not be nice to you. It's not enough to not be mean, but you also have to be nice. Yeah, that's really stupid. You don't have to be friends with everyone you meet, and as long as you're not to people, that should be enough. Agreed. If you just don't pay attention to somebody, that's completely fine. You don't have to give them kindness or niceness. You only have to give kindness and niceness to the people that you want to give kindness and niceness to. There's nothing wrong with being neutral with someone. Other people's happiness is not your responsibility. Agree wholeheartedly. Punk rock prom queen is correct on all points in this. You don't ever expect that people have to be nice to you. That's silly. Shay492 said, Starlight Glimmer should have stayed in the antagonist role longer. Well, Starlight should have just been written better. Her motivations were awful. Her spying in the background of 2 episodes was a good start, but she should have had a recurring role in Season 5 leading up to Cutie Remark. Well, she should have been written better. Again, she should have just been written better. Especially then. That is probably Starlight's weakest writing, was her quote-unquote villain arc, which was dumb, because she is an antagonist. It would have made the escalation to ruining their lives with time travel and her redemption both feel more reasonable. So, her redemption, I think, hits really hard because Twilight didn't redeem Starlight. Starlight chose to be redeemed. I will say this forever. I said it earlier in the video. I will say it again. For the rest of eternity, she's the only one who said, I am wrong, and stopped herself. No other character in this series did that. More importantly, though, she was just great as an enemy, and I'd have loved to see more of that before joining the main 6 and becoming Best Pony. Well, she was Best Pony always, even then, even with her awful writing. She's still entertaining as crap to just see her being a jerk, so. Side hot take. The fact she spotted the main 6 talking with Discord and didn't think maybe to dig a little deeper and find out how many times they saved Equestria was always odd to me. That's just bad writing. Yeah, it's just bad writing, and, like, Starlight would have done some research and been like, oh, these people have literally saved Equestria multiple times. That's just bad writing. They couldn't put that because then it would ruin the story. And they're different writers, and just as has been mentioned in this video multiple times, not consistent writing because of many factors. Next up, we have quite a few from Crazed Brony. I have to go to the first one first, which is, they should have had a few episodes to drag the Equestria Girls plot into the main canon, more backstory on the story, Sirens, for example, or a comedic half-baked revenge plot from those 3. Well, they obviously didn't want Equestria Girls to be canon. It's a miracle that they even showed Sunset in the thing where Twilight is, which means that Pony Sunset is at least canon, but who knows if anything else is. There should have been a few episodes completely from Celestia's point of view during the 1,000 years after Luna's banishment, showing the audience how much she was missed by her sister rather than merely telling them. That isn't critical to the story of Twilight. That's probably why they didn't do it. That is why fanfiction exists, and that's why, like, we've gotten so much sister stuff in fanfiction, and yeah, I'm sure the showrunners would have fumbled it if they would have done that in the canon. Celestia not playing a bigger role in the Tantabus episode was a huge dropped ball. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. They just dropped the ball there. If you're going to make an episode about Luna hating herself for what she did and you're not going to include her sister in it, that's pretty bad writing. And the fact that the same person who said that also said they should have made episodes about Celestia lamenting the years after is silly. So on one, you're complaining, oh man, they should have included Celestia in this episode. And then you're also saying they should have made episodes with... They didn't handle the sisters well. They honestly shouldn't have had several of the sisters' episodes in there that they had because they made them worse. So it's kind of a mixed bag. If you want more sister stuff and you're saying already that the sister stuff that we got was dropped, then it kind of contradicts the take. Having Weird Al Yankovic playing Cheese Sandwich was a mistake long term. The high-profile voice actor makes it considerably more difficult to have Cheese be a more commonly appearing character. So I made this point about John Delancey and Discord, and with Weird Al, the problem is this. Cheese completely hinders on being Weird Al. If you take Weird Al out of that role and put someone else, it would definitely not have worked because of all of the songs that Weird Al sings. And Weird Al is a parody singer, so you can't just replace him. And if you did replace him with just someone else, it wouldn't have worked as well. So it's just like a catch-22. There should have been more non-unicorn antagonists. We got Cozy. We got, unless you mean like not villains. If you're talking about like what, Trixie and Starlight and Sunset, I guess. See, the thing is, Earth Pony isn't really that strong to do anything, and I'm assuming when you say non-unicorn, you mean out of the 3 races, and they did a Pegasus with Cozy Glow. Magic Beats stuff, like, what are you expecting? The bigger reason MLP fanfiction is so imaginative is due to the show writers only giving sparse crumbs of lore and world building. What? It's imaginative. It's imaginative because writers care. That's why it's so imaginative. Fanfiction writers go read something where the lore is ultra deep, and fanfiction writers will still knock that crap out of the park because they are imaginative and they love the subject matter a lot of times. Tropic Love said, "While I do agree that Twilight's fate of becoming the ruler of Equestria is the most logical conclusion of her story arc, I don't think it's one that would truly bring her happiness." That's irrelevant. What? Okay. At no point did she actually show any desire to become a ruler, and even in the series finale, she sees her ascension into power as something that is needed of her rather than something she desired. Yes, because there is a thing called duty and responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man may not have wanted to become Spider-Man, but he had great power, so he was thrust into that position and took up that responsibility to protect lives. It's no different with Twilight Sparkle. It doesn't matter how she feels. That's kind of like how, again, how we were built older before. Oh man, just do whatever you want and get whatever you want and be happy yourself. That's selfishness. That's the new thing that's kind of being taught to people, and it's bad. We were taught that you do things for people and you do things selflessly, and that is what Twilight was built up to be. I feel like Twilight's truly happy ending would be of her never becoming an alicorn and instead opening a school of magic, where she can live her life by teaching and studying the one thing that always brought her joy, while still hanging out with her friends, of course. Yeah, this is just, you want to write a fanfiction, so go write a fanfiction. Honestly, it's a bit unfair that all of her friends get the chance to live out their normal, peaceful lives while she is stuck in a miserable position from which she can only escape by creating a replacement. Yeah, you're thrusting that upon Twilight. She never is portrayed to be miserable, and she clearly still hung out with her friends and was a good ruler. This is just your hang-ups, not the characters. Maybe that's why she got a personal student so early. She's out there speedrunning retirement. No, you're just kind of being dumb. Singing Lark said, "The School of Friendship as a concept is fine. I always see people complaining about how it's not a real school or teaching about friendship by a governmental authority is bad, but everyone in the background of the classes are adults. The only real kids were the students 6, so it doesn't need to teach math and stuff because everyone already learned it. And yeah, teaching friendship might be weird, but seeing how everyone reacted when the main 6 released their book, maybe they need a lesson or two." What? You can't teach friendship. It's not something you can learn in a book. If you think you can learn friendship in a book, you probably don't have friends. Another big one from Crowd Lurker. "The show has no continuity to its background lore details, and trying to make all of these details fit into one theory of everything is a fool's errand. For example, Granny Smith probably isn't 200 or 300 years old." Yes, it's the people who want to, like, do theories and connect everything and have, like, this big thing. It's silly. It's a kid's story. You should write your own, make it non-canon, but trying to canonize things like that, it's just dumb. Getting off that, Equestria girls shouldn't perfectly correlate, temporarily or character-wise, to the pony world because there just isn't enough time for Sunset to disappear, come back to discover the elements, and then come back again for the heist. Sometimes the thing just is and should not be questioned. Well, the thing is that I agree 100%, but, like, EQG isn't even canon. Like, there's nothing that says EQG is canon. That's why a lot of people don't consider it canon. So, just, if you want just canon, throw that out. All we really got for canon was the freaking movie and the 9 seasons. Also, the worlds being separate allows for the human world to be taken in its own direction, world building and plot-wise, and I think that's more interesting. Yeah, you think that's more interesting. Some people don't. That doesn't matter because it's not canon. Also, the worlds being tied implies from from a metaphysics perspective, I don't care. Personally, don't like using details from the comics extra material for my continuity because it feels inaccessible. Well, it's not canon, so it doesn't matter. Beyond looking a bit ridiculous because of her size, Cozy Glow is an interesting villain. Also, Sombra was better when he didn't talk. Cozy Glow is an interesting villain, and Sombra was better when he didn't talk, I agree. Another very long one from Opal563. I will try to preach about our Lord and Savior of rare ships, Sunset, Shimmer, and Cadence. So basically this is just going to be, I think Sunset, Shimmer, and Cadence is a good ship. And I already said earlier, ships are up to people. This is fine if you... I'll just read it. So hear me out. If Sunset never crossed the portal, she would be forced to interact with Cadence. They would be around the same age. I think Sunset was Celestia's student when Cadence became an Alicorn, so there are a lot of reasons for them to interact. Well, that's what you think. There is no proof of that in canon, because canon Sunset is literally relegated to a single frame in a song. But the attention that Celestia gives her new official niece fills Sunset with jealousy. Again, this is just a fanfic. If you want to write a fanfic, write a fanfic. At first, they will each other. Cadence will try to be friends because she is the princess of love, and she will like that Sunset talks to her as a normal... This is just a fanfic. Write a fanfic. Sorry, I promise you I'm not crazy. I'm just lonely in this ship. It's a fine ship. Write a good fanfiction about it, and then people will like it more because... If you write a good fanfic, a lot of people will read it, and then a lot of people will be like, oh, that's cool, and they'll spread the word. Just write a fanfic. Code said, while I don't much care for Starlight Glimmer, I think she's a decent character. That's not a take. You just think a character is decent. Imagine if somebody was like, give me one of your hottest takes, and you were like, I think that Celestia is decent. Okay, there are a lot of people that think that. Missed opportunity for an element of forgiveness in Equestria. There is only those elements. They weren't just going to keep adding elements. There's only a certain amount of canon elements. Why do people want there to be like 7,000 different elements? Every virtue is going to be an element? No. Finally, we get to the person who's been asking me when this is coming, so I'm putting theirs at the end so that, I don't know, eventually they're just here. Hey, you got you wanted me to do this, so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be brutally honest, so just like I am with everyone else. Late response, sorry. Number 1, the Crystal Empire is a country like the Vatican. That's not a take. I don't know why anyone did that. Okay, if you think that the Crystal Empire is a country like the Vatican, then you do you, boo-boo. That's not a take about, like, anything having to do with... Okay, number 2, Twilight should have been the Princess of Ponyville. The Princess of Ponyville? Okay, which is dumb, I know, and the rest of the main 6 should have... No, the rest of the main 6 shouldn't have been Alicorns. They did not do as much as Twilight. They were not chosen for a specific role. Everybody shouldn't just become an Alicorn. That's stupid. Even making Flurry an Alicorn was like, okay, we have 4. You guys just keep going and going, and people are like, some people are like, make 10, make 50. Big Mac should be an Alicorn. It's just dumb. No, everyone shouldn't be an Alicorn. I know in canon they don't have what it takes to be royalty, but the fact that they had to face challenging situations... No, they had to face some challenging situations way less than Twilight. It's not even remotely close. Getting back to the whole ruling over Ponyville thing, I feel like it's only fitting as Celestia and Luna retiring wasn't a good idea at all. Celestia and Luna retiring wasn't a good at all, but having Princess Twilight of Ponyville, a podunk backwoods town, that's really dumb too. Number 3, the finale to Friendship is Magic would have been cooler if the Legion of Doom had the real Grogar unify, force the Pony of Shadows, Discord, Starlight... No, this is stupid. Stupid idea. Absolutely stupid. All of the villains... No, this is stupid. This is literally stupid. I would have also loved it if it were a crossover with Equestria Girls. Oh, Equestria Girls isn't canon. Where the main 6 would meet the main 7 and teamed up with them to save... This sounds like a really stupid fantasy fulfillment that you personally want that has no good bearing on the canon of the show. Sorry. Speaking of Equestria Girls, Main 7, questioning their race is ridiculously racist. They're perfect without having a defined race, thank you very much, and I don't understand why so many people keep thinking what's their race. Yes, it is stupid to impose race on both the Equestria Girls and the MLP ponies themselves. They're horses from a magical land. There is no races like we have races. I agree with this wholeheartedly. It's really, really, really stupid to bring race. Oh, I think Twilight is black. That's stupid. I think that Pinkie Pie is Mexican. I saw a thing on Redditors are the stupidest because I saw a thing on on the MLP Reddit and I was like, I believe that Pinkie Pie is Mexican because she spoke Spanish in the song when she was singing with Cheese. Oh, really? Well, she raps. Are you going to be racist and be like, oh, Pinkie Pie raps, so she's black? That's racist too? Like, it's just dumb. They don't have races. We shouldn't impose races on them. They are fantasy characters in a fantasy land where races don't exist like they exist for us. And even in Equestria Girls, they're just colorful. So just don't do that. It's really stupid. Personally, I wish... this is number 5. Personally, I wish Celestia, Luna, Cadence, and eventually Twilight were non-evil queens instead of princesses. Based off of research I found, the queen holds... That's just stupid! Again, you're imposing... You just said don't impose race on these characters because of X, and now you're saying they should be queens because in our world, it's not our world. Clearly, Princess Celestia and Princess Luna are the highest ranking people in the Canterlot, and clearly Cadence is the highest ranking person in the Crystal Empire. Like, it's defined in the show. We don't have to do this. Number 6. Spike singing the Cloudsdale anthem is the most disturbing thing in MLP. Sorry, but it just is. Spike is annoying. Don't know what to say else. There should have been a comic explaining how Celestia and Luna became alicorns and the first rulers of Equestria, similar to Rise of Cadence. No, there shouldn't have. We don't even know if Celestia and Luna were not alicorns to begin with. If you go with G5 canon, then they were alicorns to begin with. This is just... there should have been a comic? Sure. The comic could do that. Comics aren't canon, so who cares anyways? The dragon... It crap did them little justice in the slightest, and in my opinion, it doesn't count as their true backstory. So I don't consider G5 canon to anything. Some people do. That's all I have to say about that take. And that's it. I didn't want to make this video because I knew I was going to be aggressive because, like, Fim people are already, like, really weird with their thoughts. You could tell by a lot of the stories and stuff that are written there. I didn't think I would get such weird takes. Not even hot takes, but a lot of them weren't. A lot of them were reasonable. A lot of them were the stuff like that. And I'm not trying to create controversy. I'm not trying to stir up drama. I'm not trying to piss people off. I'm just trying to run my channel and, like, do things the way that I do things. And sorry if that's not your thing. I don't know what to tell you. If it is your thing, cool. Thanks for watching this far. This video was pretty long. I am already stressed making it. Like, I'm sure you could tell as the video went on and the takes became certain things. Stuff like Spike being Twilight's brother just pisses me off beyond reason, and just there are certain things that I don't even want to discuss because the people are so adamantly, like, in that party that, like, there's no point to debate with them, just like there's no point to debate with me. Don't debate with me about the things like that you can easily discern from the show. Like, you could see the relationship that Twilight and Spike have, and that if you had a mother like that, you can also see that you were kind of playful with your mom, and you'd mess with her and you'd poke her and you'd be like, how you doing, Mom? And you'd joke with her and make jokes and you'd laugh at her. People don't understand, though, because they probably have mental issues or stunted growth and stuff, so they don't really understand that you kind of treat your mom like a sibling at a certain age, especially when you're a certain age, and like they never really brought in the whole aspect of Twilight being like a firm mom where she scolds Spike really badly, but she does scold Spike. Like she even scolds him in season 1 with the Aloysius episode. So like stuff like that I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into these big conversations about, because it's pointless. People are going to have their opinions on things, and they can have their opinions on things. I just ask them to have their opinions over there, and I'll have my opinion over here, and we could have opinions on different sides of the fence. That's fine with me. So I made this video because I said I would. I said I would a long time ago, and I don't like being a liar. I don't like lying, so I made this video. That was all of the takes from the Fimfiction question. I could have made this into 2 videos. Didn't want to do that. Might as well just make it one long video, get it out there so I'm done with it, and so I can move on to making another video that I like would rather make. If you're here the entire time, thanks. Hopefully I will see you on the next one.